We are trapped in a gilded cage of self-imposed exhaustion, running a relentless marathon that has no finish line and serves no sovereign purpose. This is the great modern deception, the myth of hard work itself. We have been taught that the mere act of being busy is a moral virtue, that the sweat on your brow is the currency of your self-worth, and that to stop, to pause, or to question the grind is a form of betrayal. It is a philosophy that turns us all into economic units, sacrificing our existential freedom for the comforting but ultimately hollow noise of non-stop activity. But I ask you, when does activity cease to be a tool for your purpose and become the very chains that bind you? We embrace the agony of the hustle because we fear the silence and the responsibility that true freedom demands. To challenge this myth is not an argument for laziness, it is a sovereign act of philosophical clarity. A demand that our lives be defined by the quality of our effort, not merely the quantity of our exhaustion. The question is not how much you work, but who that work is serving. Are you the architect of your effort, or merely a frantic passenger on the hamster wheel of modern compliance? Consider the invisible tyranny of the shoulds, the collective burden passed down by culture and convention that screams, "You must be busy to be valued." This pressure forces us to mistake activity for accomplishment, to wear exhaustion like a badge of honor, even when the labor is utterly meaningless. This channel is a space for those who choose sovereignty over compliance, for those willing to ask the radical questions that shatter the comforting illusions of the mainstream. If this journey of unvarnished truth and deep reflection resonates with your quest for a better life, I invite you to subscribe and become part of our growing community of philosophers in practice. What happens when we finally achieve the success that the hustle culture promises? We are left standing at the peak of a mountain we never truly wanted to climb, with a gnawing void that all the external achievements in the world cannot fill. This is the existential betrayal. We traded the will to meaning for the will to activity, only to find that the destination is empty. The relentless push of the modern grind is designed to keep you from confronting the most terrifying truth. The terrifying door of freedom requires you to define your own value. The modern world offers you a simple, yet poisonous, bargain. Trade your self-sovereignty for perpetual motion. We confuse friction with meaning. We believe that if something is hard, it must be important. But often, the hardest work is merely the path of resistance laid out by the systems that profit from your compliance and distraction. This is the tragic paradox of arrogance. We become so proud of our capacity for endurance that we fail to question the wisdom of the path we are enduring. We are victims of our own efficiency. The deep, quiet agony of this constant striving is that it removes the very necessity of deep thought. Why pause and reflect on the question of purpose when you can simply fill the void with another task, another email, another hour, logged? This is the anesthetic of modern life, a horizontal existence that keeps you busy but ensures you never dig deeper into the vertical truth of your own meaning. The greatest price of the hustle is not burnout, it is the forfeiture of sovereignty itself. This is where philosophy cuts through the noise. The existentialists, like Sartre and Camus, offer us a radically uncomfortable truth: existence precedes essence. This means there is no pre-written script for your life, no external authority that can define the meaning of your hard work. The hustle culture desperately tries to sell you an essence first. You are a hard worker, a builder, a high performer. But the existentialist counters, you are merely an existing consciousness, and every minute you spend working without first defining the what for, the what for, is a minute of self-betrayal. When you chase busy for busy's sake, you are running from the terrifying yet liberating burden of radical responsibility. This is the philosophical gap. The work is quantifiable, but the purpose is not. We need a truth filter for our activities, a mechanism to separate the necessary from the mere performance. The deepest lie of the hustle is that meaning is found at the finish line of the task, rather than in the intention behind it. We are conditioned to believe that the bigger the sacrifice, the greater the reward, confusing self-flagellation with self-improvement. This mindset turns your life into a never-ending means to an end, perpetually delaying the moment where you can finally declare yourself worthy. But the philosopher knows that worthiness is not earned, it is a given starting point. The true sovereign struggle is not to achieve the next external milestone, but to find the dignity in the present effort, the integrity of doing this well, for this reason. If you cannot articulate the why of your work, you are merely an efficient machine for someone else's dream. This confusion between sacrifice and surrender is the true engine of burnout. The danger lies in the addiction to chaos. The modern worker often becomes addicted to the adrenaline of urgency, the small, fleeting reward of crossing a task off a list, regardless of the task's true value. This is the Narcissus trap applied to labor, the desire for the external validation that comes from being seen as productive. We are not working for the outcome, we are working for the status of exhaustion. The great lie is that this feeling of being overwhelmed is a sign of importance. It is not. It is often a sign of poor boundaries and a fundamental failure in proheresis, the power of choice over your inner response. We choose known misery, the chaos of the overloaded schedule, over the terrifying unknown of a fully liberated, selective schedule. True power lies not in your ability to handle everything, but in your courage to refuse the non-essential with an unshakable no. We must apply the Stoic dichotomy of control to our effort. The hustle culture focuses obsessively on external outcomes, money, titles, public recognition, things that are fundamentally outside your control. But the Stoic mind focuses only on the quality of the effort and intention, your virtue, your wisdom, your choice, things that are absolutely within your control. The existential cost of the hustle is incurred when you tie your identity to the fleeting rewards of the marketplace. When you define yourself as a high performer, you make yourself a hostage to the market's ever-changing demands. If the outcome of your work is defined by factors outside your sovereignty, then your identity is built on fragile ego and not on the inner citadel of your character. To work with virtue means to work well, to apply your best judgment, and then to be indifferent to the external result. This detachment is the ultimate weapon against the anxiety that the hustle culture creates. The philosopher, unlike the hustler, knows that virtue is its own reward. You do not need the approval of the crowd or the size of your bank account to validate the integrity of your actions. The hustle demands a constant external scorecard. Stoicism demands an internal one. Ask yourself, if no one ever knew I did this, would I still do it with the same conviction? If the answer is no, You are working for performance, not for purpose. This is the test of the sovereign mind, to be utterly independent of the opinion of the world regarding the quality of your effort. The true hard work is not the task itself, but the internal battle to remain virtuous in the face of trivial, yet tempting, distractions. Do not mistake self-discipline for the discipline of a slave. Consider the words of Seneca. It is not that we have a short time to live, but that we waste a lot of it. The hustle culture forces you to waste time on the unnecessary, robbing you of the energy required for the essential. This waste is not just time, it is the forfeiture of your freedom to choose a better path. It is the illusion of a life lived vertically with depth and meaning, while you are trapped in a merely horizontal existence of endless, flat tasks. The cure for the disease of busies is not more time management. It is a complete philosophical overhaul of your values. You must accept the necessary scarcity of your time to radically prioritize the work that is aligned with your deepest sense of purpose. Stop optimizing your slavery and start defining your freedom. The most insidious element of the myth is the fear it instills, the fear that if you stop, you will be confronted by the existential void. Busyness is the ultimate form of self-pity, a desperate attempt to avoid the discomfort of silence and reflection. When you choose to stop, you are forced to ask, who am I without my titles and my to-do list? The answer is terrifying because it forces you to become the creator of your life, not merely the creature of reaction. Nietzsche offered the antidote, amor fati. This means not just loving your fate, but loving the necessity of the struggle and rejecting the unnecessary compliant struggle. We must embrace the necessary discomfort of confrontation with ourselves and reject the easy pain of horizontal activity. The path to purpose is not paved with endless tasks. It is carved out of the silence you create by saying no to the trivial. To break the chain of compliance, we need to perform a radical audit of our commitments. We must apply the 5 whys technique to every major item on your schedule. Why am I doing this? Because my boss asked. Why did my boss ask? Because no one else would. Why would no one else? Because they set better boundaries. Why didn't I set better boundaries? Because I feared the loss of status. Why do I fear the loss of status? Because I haven't defined my internal worth. The final why is always a philosophical one. It reveals the invisible chain of your personal truth filter that drives the activity. The work is not hard because it is complex. It is hard because it is an act of self-forfeiture. Stop building a life of cohesion and start living one of truth. We must draw a clear, painful line between sacrifice for sovereignty and sacrifice for compliance. The sovereign worker embraces the necessary hard work that serves a predefined internal purpose. This is the focused effort of the craftsman, the deep work of the philosopher. The compliant worker embraces the unnecessary hard work that serves external expectations and status seeking. This is the frantic noise of the hustler, the busyness of the self-deceiver. The former is an act of courageous intention. The latter is an act of lazy reaction. Do not confuse the agony of a difficult, sovereign choice with the frantic, easy pain of simply saying yes to every request. The cost of your time is not measured in dollars. but in the loss of the possibilities that the time could have created. The sovereign worker operates from a place of deliberate action, not desperate reaction. They understand that their most powerful tool is the art of refusal. Every no to a trivial task is a yes to the meaningful life you are striving to build. You must redefine hard work, not as time spent, but as the courage to do only what matters. This requires the ambiguous tolerance to be perceived as less busy, less important, or even sometimes lazies by those still trapped in the hustle. But remember, the opinions of others are fundamentally outside your control. Your personal scorecard is the only metric that truly matters. The true philosopher works, but they never hustle. The hustle is the sound of an unprepared mind. The path to true freedom is paved with conscious self-limitation. You must actively create the necessary boundaries that protect your time for the deep, existential work of defining your own meaning. This means scheduling your no's as diligently as you schedule your yeses. It is the ultimate act of self-respect to declare that your energy is not a free resource for the world's endless demands, but a sacred, limited resource for your highest purpose. The sovereign mind views all external demands with Socratic doubt, questioning their legitimacy against the backdrop of its own defined values. This is the ethic of the intentional limit, a life defined by the power of its selectivity, not by the breadth of its obligations. True work is not endless, it is finite and focused. It's time to take the sovereign vow, the audit of true effort. The work of a philosopher is not to add more hours to the grind, but to audit the hours you already have. We must apply the Socratic doubt not to others, but to our own schedule. Do you confuse the agony of self-importance with the dignity of true purpose? Your challenge is this. Take the task that makes you feel the most busy, the thing you are proudest of doing, and apply the 3 questions for purpose. What does the task demand of me? What is the outcome? And what will I sacrifice by doing it? If the answer is merely to look good or to avoid silence, that work is your master, not your servant. Share your thoughts on this existential audit in the comments below. What is the one task you will stop doing today because it offers activity without meaning? Let us build a community not of hustle, but of sovereign effort. If this deep dive resonated with your pursuit of a sovereign life, like the video and subscribe. We do not walk this path for answers, but for better questions. We walk it together.